Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome to the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. For joining us, I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, how you doing? I hope that you're doing well and you are ready for some Computer America. Today we have computer and technology news. We'll be doing that the entire segment. There's a lot of stories looking at it here, about 20. We're not going to get to them all, but we're going to do our best. So everyone, welcome into the program. Hopefully you're having a great day and you are ready for for a program. Hopefully you had a good weekend as well. Did something fun. Everyone kept safe. I know that there were the earthquakes over in California. Any of our audience listening there, hopefully you are all well and you don't have too much of a mess to clean up. But yeah, everyone, hey, welcome into the program. Before we get started, first things first, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including today's show notes, which will have links to any articles, videos, anything and everything that we talk about here today will be included in the show notes. And I know that we are backed up just a couple of days. We'll get all those up probably we're going to work on those, and we're going to have a lot of shows coming to the podcast, and we're going to have a lot of posts going up on the website. So keep an eye out for that. Probably by tomorrow, everything should be caught up and ready to go. Now, everyone, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news. Again, if you're watching on the video portion, if you are listening to us on IRN, we thank you so much for doing that. And let's go ahead and get started. Everyone, computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and let's do some stuff here quick, and let's see, there we go. Yeah, let's go ahead and turn that one up just a hair, and hopefully everyone out there can hear me. Sorry, we are fiddling with our microphone settings live on the air, and we totally should have done this before the program. So, everyone, welcome into the... And right there, that should be good. Okay, let's go ahead and do computer and technology news. And I think our first story, this one, okay, so I went to, because our studio is in North Carolina. Recently, I went to Dallas, Texas, big city, Dallas. If anyone out there, listening is from Dallas or it's currently in Dallas, great city. It's huge, mostly friendly. So, you got that going for you. But I noticed walking around downtown, maybe this is like this in every metropolitan area, but those dockless, as they call them, the, all the scooters and the different scooters, either run by Uber or they're run by, whatever applications are out there. And, oh my God, it's a service that is primarily and actually almost exclusively used by adults because you have to have a smartphone, first of all, that negates most 6-year-olds. And then on top of that, you have to have a credit card information on file to order these things. For anyone out there who does not know what these services are, maybe they aren't in your city yet. I kind of view them as like a plague. But essentially, you find a scooter laying on the ground. You would pick it up. You would scan a code using your app, and it would pair with the scooter that you're currently, kind of looking at or touching. And then on top of that, you would then rent it. It would be $1 to start it. It's an electric scooter. It would start right up, and however long you rode it for, you would pay that much money, and it just automatically gets transferred to your card. And then when you're done with it, you hit the app, it shuts off the scooter, and you are good to go. You just drop it. You just leave it. And I have no idea how these things got approval by cities and states and things like that. Because like I was saying, you need a smartphone, you need an app, you need a credit card connected to the app, and you need to actually pay for these things. So that negates, as I said, anyone easily under the age of 8, let alone 13. And I'm sure that there are permissions within it that say that only 18-year-olds or 18 and up are allowed to drive these things, or whatever the age limit the App Store has set. I bring all this up because people treat these things like 6-year-olds treat toys. They just throw them on the ground. And I get it. That's the way that the service was set up. You're not supposed to leave it at a docking station. There's an entire little industry around if you want to work for these companies, such as Lime or Uber or Bird or Jump. That if you want to work for them, you can go around collecting scooters. They give you a GPS location. You go pick them up, you charge them, and you set them out ready to go for people. I get that. But man, they were just laying in the middle of sidewalks. They are, luckily I didn't see any in the street where cars could hit them, but it's like you went over to your friend's house and it was just laying in the front yard, laying on the sidewalk, laying there in the garage, just thrown aside like a toy. Man, was that disconcerting to see not one, not a dozen, but 100+ scooters just laying around these streets. It was kind of awful. So I don't know how I feel about them. So that's my story about the scooters. Now on to this actual article that we have here. And this has to do with flash floods. Yes, not everyone's favorite thing, but how it relates to my little diatribe there is that flash floods in Washington, D.C. take their toll on dockless bikes and scooters. You heard that right. So Bird, Lime, and Jump are pulling their respective fleets out of service in the affected area. So obviously, flash flooding in Washington, D.C. has thrown the capital region into chaos with reports of water rescues, traffic closures, and power outages. The floods are also taking their toll on the city's thousands of bikes and scooters. That's right, it's not just scooters, but it's bikes as well, and electric bikes. With images surfing on social media of dockless vehicles floating forlornly in flood waters, which, not good. So Bird, Jump, and Lime, 3 of the city's 5 operators, told The Verge that their employees were actively engaged in removing scooters from flooded areas. Another operator, Skip, was ordered by the city to pull its scooters off the streets last month following a battery fire in a storage area. So, of course, whether those scooters will ever be back in service is an entirely different question. As I said, I only saw maybe 1 or 2 people actually using them. I saw a lot more just lying around. And obviously, someone has to use them for them to be lying around in the middle of nowhere. But overall, it seems like the city could use a lot less of them. So Lime removed a large portion of its fleet from the DC area today, and all soggy scooters will be examined by the company's mechanics with any necessary repairs or parts replaced before returning to service. They also mentioned the Uber-owned Jump said the same thing, and Bird all said that they were going through an inspection as well. There you go. So they said that the life of an electric scooter can be nasty, brutish, and short. So short that building a scooter with a much improved lifespan has become a necessity for scooter companies that's hoping to stay in business. And they have other reports of other things like that happening. But scooter companies are redesigning their scooters to be more resilient and longer lasting, but none have been able to produce a scooter that is completely water resilient, or one that floats, because obviously a flash flood is, is obviously going to be a bad thing. And so, man, this is just crazy. And of course, if you're watching the video portion, a gentleman has a video up on Twitter showing these these scooter ride sharing services submerged completely. It's just awful. So there you have it. Man, again, those scooters have such a mixed reaction. Like it's mixing technology, it's mixing convenience, and it's mixing, kind of a younger generation that is completely comfortable riding scooters. I get that, but overall, man, it's just crazy. So there's the article. First article of the day. Let's go ahead and continue on. Let's let's talk about something really cool here. And this is going to be pretty quick. We're going to skim the article, but I like it when land speed records are broken. And more specifically for Formula One. So VW's or Volkswagen's crazy electric car breaks an F1 record at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. Sounds like my kind of festival. They said that the Festival of Speed went electric, autonomous, and remote controlled in 2019. And they have some really nice pictures here in the article, which we'll include in the show notes. But they mentioned that part garden party, part car show, the Festival of Speed is a competitive event with a 1.15 mile hill climb up past Goodwin House. And they mentioned that Volkswagen and Dumas took the IDR to Goodwood in 2018, hoping to beat Heidfield's record, so on and so forth. Let's see. They mentioned that they stripped out some of the batteries to bring the overall weight down. Overall, they modded it a little bit more from last year, and so they set a new record. They mentioned that they were able to complete the mile and a bit, so 1.15 miles. They're able to complete the entire 1.15 mile track in just 39.9 seconds. That is crazy. And again, that shaves off about 2 seconds off of the previous holder at 41.6. And so you can see the article here. You can see the images here. This thing is just crazy. It's really incredible to see that. And on top of that, it's very interesting to know that these Formula One companies are highly invested in autonomous cars. They are highly invested in electric cars. It's not just about keeping the old ways. It's about what's new, what's great, what's really the best sports car. And does the future of a sports car really have a driver? Does it have is it strictly electric? Does it even have any kind of manual shifting? Is it automatic? Who knows? But looks like they are trying a little bit of everything. So there you go. And we're going to go ahead and continue. But again, 1.15 miles, able to complete in 39.9 seconds. A new speed record for that particular track. Okay, last week we, just to get this out there, last week we reported on Microsoft flooding its social media with news of Windows 1.0. And we were all wondering what's happening. Some of the rumors, some of the explanations turned out to be true. And very thankful, because no one wants to go back to Windows 1.0 to actually use that device. So, with that being said, Microsoft Windows 1.0 announcement was part of Stranger Things. Yes, Stranger Things, that one. It was a promotional stunt, saying that they are celebrating the show's return with an 80s themed app. If you want to check that out, saying that Microsoft set the internet abuzz last week with a cryptic announcement about the all-new Windows 1.0, not Windows 10, Windows 1.0, and now we know why. Saying that it was all about Stranger Things, and to celebrate the return of the show, which is set in 1985, the year that Windows 1.0 was released, the company is launching the Windows 1.11 app. It features classic Paint and Terminal programs, as well as Stranger Things themed puzzles and exclusive content. No floppy disk required. That's right. Later in the month, Microsoft will be running Camp Nowhere at its store locations and online, where kids over 13 can take part in a STEM-inspired workshop, which include themes from the show. Finally, fans have a chance to win some stuff, some Xbox passes, and all through their social media. But to answer everyone's question, that's what the Windows 1.0 was. It was a marketing stunt to promote Stranger Things. So there we go. Windows is not heading back to its roots. Okay, and there's that one. Simple. Let's get something in. Talk about something pretty heady here. Let's see if we have it. Heady. Okay. How about this one? This could actually make a pretty big, this can make a pretty big impact on everyone's favorite behemoth Goliath of a company. None other than Amazon. What's happening, you ask? Well, the courts have ruled that Amazon can be held responsible for defective third-party goods. If you've ever ordered from Amazon, you realize that more and more you find the same product listed multiple times. You, of course, go with the cheapest one or the one with the best reviews. And as we have talked about on the show before, Amazon is trying their best to combat fake reviews, but the best reviewed products aren't always actually the best. They can be, that system can be cheated. It can be circumvented. You can pay for reviews. You can, put up your own fake ones, and overall you can obscure the actual reviews. The point is, more and more third parties are using Amazon as a platform, which I believe Amazon will never stop doing. That's kind of their bread and butter. But now they may actually have to come to terms with what that means to be the marketplace as opposed to the exclusive provider. And as we said, they can be held responsible for defective third-party goods, saying that who can you call when the actual seller vanishes off the face of the earth? There you go. So this is an article from Ars Technica, and Miss Kate Cox is the author, saying that shoppers who end up stuck with a defective dead product sold by some fly-by-night third-party Amazon seller may finally have an avenue of recourse, saying a federal court has become the first to rule that Amazon can be held liable for what its marketplace vendors sell. This pleases me, and it pleases me mainly because without this ruling, Amazon would continue to let what has been happening run rampant. And that's because they can push all of the responsibility off on these third-party companies. And I've looked into some of these products, mostly things like phone cases and other small electronics like headphones. There's tons of merchandise that you can find on Amazon from a lot of third-party vendors. They'll just go out and create another account to be sellers. And if if they get too many negative reviews, if they get punished too many times for not handling customer complaints or issuing refunds, if they get too many complaints, they will shut that storefront down, which they should. But at the same time, the barrier to entry for becoming a third-party seller on Amazon is so low that anyone can do it. And that's why it was really never an effective way to really police this, because threatening to stop selling your goods on Amazon. Sure, a company like Google or Google with its Google Assistant or its Chrome TV or something like that, or its Chromecast not being able to sell on Amazon, Google can't just say, oh, we're not Google, we are rock company, and we're just happen to be selling the Chromecast. Like, a company that large can't make a fake account to sell their products through Amazon, but a lot of these smaller, and let's face it, a lot of these products and products made in China, they pop up very, very frequently. So, to get back on track, the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Philadelphia issued an opinion that said Amazon qualified as a seller under Pennsylvania state law, at least for the purposes of the suit. And while Amazon argued that every item sold on its site could be traced to a specific vendor, the court said that Amazon fails to account for the fact that third-party vendors can communicate with the customer only through Amazon, which is true. Amazon does not want you communicating directly with a seller through any other means. They want to make sure that they have communications of the entire conversation through their own system so that they can go back and audit it if they need to. Like they said, which enables third-party vendors to conceal themselves from the customer, leaving customers injured by defective products with no direct recourse. Which, by the way, that shroud of, you're still dealing with Amazon, but you're not really dealing with Amazon. That shroud is what let people file multiple companies and sell multiple defective products and not really have the end consumer know any the wiser. So, Amazon in its most recent, quarterly report said that its sprawling third-party marketplace accounted for more than 18% of the entire company's sales. That's right. That's right. So it's just huge when it comes to actually bringing in money, which, by the way, brings in about $11.14 billion in 3 months. I'm always shocked by just the numbers that Amazon deals with. They sell a lot, they do a lot of business, and they do a lot of commerce. $11 billion in commerce. That's crazy. Analysts expect the third-party marketplace revenue to eclipse Amazon-owned first-party sales this year, while that largely laissez-faire digital Agora, I don't even know what that means, brings in bank for the company that hosts it. Consumers for years have faced mounting challenges with recalled products, toxic goods, counterfeits, and otherwise just really shoddy products that you have no way of dealing with, which our family has done one too. One of my family members tried to order a piece of workout equipment, and it was from China. I don't know if there's some kind of cultural, I'm just a really fat American, which I can attest, I certainly am. But I don't know if there's some kind of monumental size difference. This thing was marketed as a large, not just for large people, but hey, I just figure that I'm hoping to grow these last 4 inches, and any year now. I'm 28 years old. I'm hoping to hit that 6'3" mark that I was promised. But if I don't, I still wanted a large just so I could eventually grow into it. And this thing was so small, it was so crappy that I have never used it. I just the dimensions of my body just do not work with this exercise bench. And no recourse. It was complete crap. Like, we paid the appropriate amount for it. It was just, bad. So it happens all the time. The marketplace sets up consumers to buy directly from wholesalers, individual resellers, international businesses, or entities that may be complete scam artists. Think about eBay. Same thing happened there. That's why user reviews are so important. And all of that can make it difficult for a shopper to figure out where exactly to complain if something goes wrong. The case brought to the Third Circuit involves a woman who bought a dog collar from a third-party Amazon vendor in December 2014. A few weeks later, the woman was walking her dog and the collar snapped, causing the retractable leash to recoil and injure her eye, blinding her permanently on that side. That's a horrible story. The dog collar snapped and flew back in her face and destroyed one of her eyes. Oh my God. No wonder she has a case. So the third-party vendor, who is named the Furry Gang, basically disappeared. Neither the woman nor Amazon was able to find a representative for the seller, which has not had an active Amazon account since May 2016. The injured customer sued, saying Amazon should be held liable for a defective and dangerous product being sold, even including warnings that could make it safer. Although, man, I don't think you generally assume that a dog collar is going to snap in use like that. So the district court issued a summary judgment for Amazon, finding it did not qualify as a seller under Pennsylvania liability law. The customer appealed, and they reversed the ruling, noting that Amazon generally takes no precaution to ensure that third-party vendors are in good standing under the law in the place they operate, which we mentioned. It's very fly-by-night. And if you get any kind of bad review, if you get anything like that, the furry gang, I have almost no doubt that they may have disappeared off the face of the earth, but the people behind it are almost undoubtedly operating another storefront on Amazon as we speak, doing the exact same thing. It's just they can't be connected to the previous company. So the article goes a bit into Section 230, of the Communications Decency Act. Don't really have any interest in reading case law, but let's go ahead and ask: is this possible? Or is this lawsuit going to go anywhere? So, Federal Appeals Court ruled twice in just the past 2 months that Amazon was not liable for defective products sold by a third-party vendor. They said in one instance, batteries in a headlamp malfunctioned and started a fire, which caused more than $300,000 in damages to a consumer's home. I'm assuming the entire house was burned down. The homeowner's insurer sued Amazon to try to recoup the funds it paid out to the homeowner. The appeals court ruled in May that Amazon was not immune from the lawsuit under Section 230. It did not qualify under the law as the seller of the defective product and therefore was not liable under Maryland law for selling defective products. The other one was an exploding hoverboard, and they ruled the same way. It's very interesting. We've never seen a company this large and at the same time deal with so many products, so many people, so many transactions, and just not have any skin in the game. I guess is one of the benefits of being a $1 trillion company is that you probably have an army of lawyers on retainer just to tackle anything that you really don't like. And being able to be the marketplace to say that, hey, we essentially make the cars, but if there's a car accident, that's not our fault. I would say the drivers, but kind of the self-driving cars are at fault, which would be, you get to operate on our highways, but we're never responsible for anything that happens on them. Which is, by the way, a very bad analogy and probably should be ignored. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and continue on. I'm very interested to keep up to what Amazon is happening. Okay, there's that one, and we have time for just one short story. And okay, how about this? Just a headline. Not going to get into this. Looks like everyone's safe. Maybe some people were sent to. Maybe some of the people were sent to the hospital. I probably should have skimmed it to see if there were any injuries before I joke about this. But just a headline: small fire breaks out and is extinguished at. Here we go. Small fire breaks out and is extinguished. There we go. Wow, hard to say that. At SpaceX's Florida Starship facility. And the scientists who apologized for the fire said, "We're sorry. It's only rocket science. We don't know why that caught on fire." So, thank you. I know, very funny. But yeah, so this afternoon, a small fire occurred in Cocoa Beach, Florida. SpaceX explained to TechCrunch the fire was contained to a C-van on site and extinguished thanks to Cocoa Fire Department, which responded within minutes. So, as they mentioned in a statement, the cause of fire is still unclear and the company will investigate, but it doesn't look like it will impact anything. It's just one van caught on fire. So, not good, but everyone's okay, and it looks like everything is going to be good. So when we come back from the break, which we'll do in just a moment, let's go ahead and talk about Radeon RX 5700 and 5700 XT. We have a review from Engadget that went over it. Last week, they announced the beefed up super versions of the card. You may remember we already covered last week the NVIDIA, where they came out with the super designation for the graphics cards, which kind of take the place of the TIs, but essentially it turns every iteration of the current 2050, 2060, 2070, 2080, which I think there's only 2060 to 80. It takes every iteration of the 2060 through 2080 super to the next level. So if you buy a 2060 super, you would essentially get about the same performance of a 2070, and so on and so forth. Very, very cool. And of course, the price didn't go up that much. But now we're going to talk about Radeon, AMD, see what they had to say, and a lot more computer and technology news. Everyone, stay tuned. More after this. We'll be right back.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And everyone, if you missed any part of today's show, and as I said before at the beginning of the program, we are behind a couple of days. We'll get it up on the website here before you know it. The podcast version of the show will be, will be caught up later this afternoon. And overall, we're going to try our best. So everyone, but hey, computeramerica.com, and in the meantime, anywhere where podcasts are heard, we'll have a bunch of new episodes up here shortly. Now, everyone, let's go ahead, continue on, and we're doing computer technology news for the whole program, and let's talk about the Radeon RX 5700 and 5700 XT. XT would be something like Super or TI that the NVIDIA is trying to push. They essentially just mean, hey, they're a little bit better. But overall, here's a review from Davinci Hardware. He's the hardware expert for Engadget, does great work, and overall, I really liked this review, which we're going to include over in the show notes. But you can see here, all the different pictures and things like that. They liked it. And I'm excited to hear that. So the unveiling of Radeon 5000 family and Ryzen 3rd Gen chips at Computex made it clear this was going to be a special year for AMD. Its latest CPU included a monster 12-core chip for just $500. And to put that into perspective, let's see. Intel has its i9, which I believe is 8-core 16-thread, or is the i9 the 10-core 20-thread processor? But the point is, I think it's less than than what it has here, because you can go up a little bit further and get larger and larger core chips and CPUs and things like that. But the point is, for like $800-900, and for hundreds of dollars less, you get a comparable chip. Obviously, individual core speeds are going to be compromised. Individual programs are not going to see that much of a performance increase, or actually they may actually see a performance decrease compared to some of the Intel chips. But the fact that AMD is competitive, and not just competitive, but in certain aspects ahead of Intel, is really encouraging to see. That's definitely what we like to hear. Competition is great. And with its latest video cards, the Radeon RX 5700 and RX 5700 XT, which by the way sell for about $400 and $349. So it looks like the non-XT is the higher end of the two. AMD is finally bringing its long-awaited Navi architecture, which is now called Radeon DNA, or RDNA, clever, to a consumer GPU unit. Obviously, NVIDIA was paying attention. They beefed up the supercards of its RTX, which include essentially they're the ray tracing cards. They seem, which on paper seem to erase AMD's performance advantage. All of this is great news for, gamers who now have a strong new lineup of affordable mid-range graphics cards to choose from. And mid-range, for those of you not paying attention, anywhere from like $300 to $500 is now mid-range, if you were curious. But AMD is once again at risk of being overshadowed by its flashier competitor, even with their new offerings. Although they gave them pretty good scores. The first one, the Radeon RX 5700 XT, which is the lesser performance of the two, received about an 86 score. You can see why they got its summary. They mentioned it's an ideal mid-range GPU. It'll get you beyond 100 FPS in most modern titles, which is perfect for a 144 Hz display. They're saying that you might even be able to squeeze out some decent 4K performance out of it, but it has no real-time ray tracing. To put a word to it, actually, our graphics expert, Darius Derakhshani, we've talked about real-time ray tracing and the importance of it, if it's something that you should really worry about, if it's something that you really want. If you're a video game player and it's only going to affect gamers with real-time ray tracing, it's going to make a difference. Yes, definitely. Is it the biggest deal? Currently, not really, because not many games actually support it. If you get real-time ray tracing, if you get an NVIDIA 2080 Ti or whatever, you are future-proofing yourself. You're going to be good for a couple of years to come. For any new titles released, you're going to be able to utilize real-time ray tracing. If you buy it today, there may be a handful of games, and even a smaller handful of games that you actually want to play that will be able to utilize it. So just keep that in mind, even though the real drawback for Engadget was the fact that these things don't support ray tracing is not that big of a deal yet. It will be down the road, not yet. Okay, so the next one was the AMD Radeon RX 5700, which is the higher performing of the two. And they mentioned that both will give you solid mid-range 1440p graphics, which is great, cheaper than the competition. Price is almost the biggest factor when it comes to buying these things. And PCIe 4.0 support makes them future-proof. So, of course, great. And as they said, it runs a little hot and no real-time ray tracing. Who knows? So there you go. And they mentioned that, like they said, the blowers run a little hot. They can heat up a lot. So it has some thermal issues, but overall seems to be very, very good. They have the numbers here if you're interested in all the base clock speed, the game clock, the boosted performance, the memory, which is 8 gigabytes GDDR6. they're pretty good. They're pretty good, and they put it through its paces through Hitman 2, Destiny 2, Witcher 3, all of them very, 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 very good FPS, well above 60 FPS, which is great. So yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and leave it there. If you want to see the actual benchmarks, Engadget does a great job of benchmarking cards. These third-party benchmarks are super important. You know, you need to, of course, take anything directly from a manufacturer like AMD or Nvidia or Intel. You need to take what they say with a grain of salt, because they're going to do it in a laboratory condition with ideal conditions and get the absolute best out of whatever it is that they do. But real world testing that these news organizations do, way more important. So, because no one is going to have an ideal situation for these cards like they do in a laboratory. Let's go ahead and swap things over to, all right, so this is just a quick update. NPR, you know them. We did this story last week. We talked about it. We'll summarize it real quick for everyone, but it's official. It happened. Last week they were going to, and today they did. They closed the bookstore on its e-library, they being Microsoft, erasing all user content. That's right. They said that the company is able to shut its store, was launched in 2017 to compete with industry leaders Amazon, Apple, and Barnes & Noble due to a tool called Digital Rights Management, or DRM. And really, that's at the crux of this whole thing. Digital rights management, who owns what it is that you actually use when you buy, an emphasis on buying. People actually bought these. They did not sign up for a monthly service. They did not rent them. They actually purchased ebooks. They purchased the data that was the book. Well, the DRM servers are being shut down, and when that happens, the digital rights management cannot prove that you are the person who is supposed to be accessing the content that is hosted offsite, or not even offsite, but on your tablet. But it can't say that, hey, this is the tablet, this, that handshake can't happen. That proves the whole transaction. Therefore, Microsoft is deleting, I guess by extension, they're deleting everyone. Like, they have removed everyone's books. And by the way, they have a quote here from the End of Ownership, Personal Property in the Digital Economy, and that's Aaron Perzanowski, saying that, quote, your car, your smart home appliance, your home security system, all these systems have software that allows for this kind of control over how devices are used, and I think we're going to see the same sorts of situation crop up in the context of physical devices that are being used in people's homes, end quote. And by the way, that already happens. A similar story that this is indicative of, and I'm sure that later in the article they probably bring it up, but even if they don't, this is very similar to the case between Apple and not Apple, but John Deere and farmers, where the farmers will buy tractors, but then the software updates have to be, continuously added, safety features, so on and so forth. Essentially, the operating system is maintained by John Deere, and they have to pay huge contracts to John Deere to be able to continue to run this multi-million-dollar piece of equipment for their farm. And we have seen time after time that they're starting to hack their machines. They're starting to, because I guess when you work on a farm, I would never know because I don't work on a farm. But when you work on a farm, you need to be able to fix it. You can't just say, oh, the tractor's out of commission. That's the end of it. No, you get in there and you fix it. Very antithetical to the practices of digital rights management, because if it's broken, you have to contact John Deere, you have to pay thousands of dollars, when it should be a quick fix for the individual. Digital rights management means that even though the farmers bought the tractor, they paid the money, it's theirs completely and wholly, they don't have permission to work on it, or at least that's what the court case about digital rights management is. Same thing happens. It's going to happen more and more, and it's time to really hammer out who owns what, and if consumers are okay with that. So to wrap this up, I didn't think the story was that big of an issue. Just letting everyone know it was an update. It did go down, and that's the end of it. I guess the reason that this got so much traction is because it's Microsoft of all companies. It's a huge company. A lot of people know it. It's very attention grabbing. But to the people who actually use the Microsoft e-library, which is only accessible through Microsoft Edge, which has a very low adoption rate, which is only available through the e-library app through Microsoft Edge, and on top of that was only available for about 1.5 to 2 years, and on top of that could only be read through Microsoft Edge. Think about everyone who reads ebooks, how many people actually do it on a laptop or a computer? Not many. So I'm thinking that the people who actually, the people who are actually affected by this are very, very small. The reason that this got so much traction was because of who was behind it, being Microsoft, and the implications for down the line, what happens when another company says that they just simply don't want to support digital rights management, and what do you do with the fallout after that? So in an explainer posted to its website, Microsoft adds that anyone who wrote notes or marked up ebooks will receive an additional $25 credit. The company has not yet provided a reason for the closure. The reason, probably no one used it. It was a drain on their resources, and they were more than happy to make this financial decision to tick off a couple of people, or at least tick off what should have been only a few people, but then the internet ran wild with it. And there you go. So that's about the wrap up. I don't think, again, this affected too many people, and for those of you that it did, you are in a very small minority who will be getting, by the way, complete refunds. That's right, complete refunds. So there's a little bit of consolation there. It will be charged back to your card if you have a card associated with your account. If not, you get Microsoft currency that you can spend in the Microsoft Store. Overall, if Microsoft was going to pull something like this, I think they did it in the best way possible. They were very clear, they were very upfront, and they issued refunds. So they didn't leave everyone just kind of holding their thumbs. Okay, let's talk about more hardware. Well, that was about software. Let's talk about hardware. And the Google Pixel 4, not 3, but 4. Yes, the all-new 4 XL renders. If you would like to see what we're looking at, computeramerica.com. But we have the first full-fledged renders of what they actually look like. And there you go. And let's see. So we only see the camera, what that's going to look like, and we see the kind of front-facing part. But the big news is, I don't even know why it's big news, but here we go. This is by Chris Holt from Engadget. The Google Pixel 4 XL render, which is, by the way, kind of the artist makeup, but they were leaked from Google, suggests that the notch is going away. That's right, the notch. The notch is going away. A large bezel may accommodate the front-facing cameras, and that means the screen real estate is simply the screen real estate, and going a little bit different than the Samsung approach, which is just using pinholes instead of a notch, or well, no notch and no pinhole, but we're getting just a large bezel, which actually isn't that large. Compared to most smartphones, it's very succinct. I have no problem with this. So we mentioned this is the article from Gadget. We already know that the rear of the Google's upcoming Pixel 4 looks like. The renders of the other side of the XL version suggest that the smartphone will ditch the widely derided notch of the Pixel 3 XL. And it appears that the Pixel 4 XL will have a larger top bezel to house the dual front-facing camera, other sensors, and perhaps for hand gestures, and an earpiece speaker for calls, instead of going down the increasingly common notch route. There's no physical fingerprint reader on the renders either, so the Pixel 4 might well have an in-display fingerprint sensor, which I would not put it past it. The technology is there. It's not very good, but it's getting better all the time. Maybe it'll be ready for prime time by the time this is released. So let's go ahead and saying that it seems unlikely Google will follow suit here, as it surely wants to keep the big reveal for its sure to be splashy Pixel 4 event, which will likely take place in the fall. The point is, it's a big phone, it's a big beefy phone, and I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Google Pixel lineup of phones as far as what a flagship phone can be. Google still has some catching up to do behind Samsung and Apple, but overall, the fact that Google is able to contend in any hardware space, I'm shocked and pleased. So there you go. Okay, time for a couple more stories. Let's talk about this one. This one's fun for everyone out there listening to us. On the East Coast, Computer America runs at the end of the workday. We hope that you tune in and we can kind of make that last hour go on by. But at the same time, on the West Coast, and let alone, I know that we have a lot of audience over in Europe, and sometimes people listen to us at work and things like that. Well, I'm not saying that you can do this on a work computer, or that you should. If you're working, you should work. But here's an article. This is just a quick one from The Verge. It's pretty funny. This Chrome extension, and by the way, if you have not explored the world of Chrome extensions, a lot of them are great for productivity. Definitely go check them out. They can do a lot of things. Maybe we'll do a whole show on Chrome extensions, and maybe broaden that out to Firefox extensions and other extensions. That's actually a pretty good idea. But I will say, this Chrome extension is not a productivity. In fact, this is an anti-productivity tool. It will disguise Netflix as a hangout to slack off at work. That's right, a Google Hangout. So, Netflix Hangouts is a new Chrome extension that tries to make it easier to get away with watching Netflix while you're supposed to be working. Just go to the show you want to catch up on during work hours and press the extension's icon in your Chrome menu to bring up a fake 4-person conference call. Then you can sit back and watch the show in the Windows bottom right feed while 3 fake colleagues get down to business. Now, obviously, the only audio that you're going to hear is the one from Netflix. There would be 3 random people on your computer screen, as well as the Netflix feed, that will be talking silently and moving their head, gesturing, that kind of thing, which may be kind of distracting, but it'll probably go away before long. And at the same time, I can't help but feel like if your boss looks over at your screen, they may just say, "Who the heck are those people? And why are you on a 4-person conference call with them?" Well, there you go. So depending on the show you're watching, you could just get away with it as long as no one notices that all your conference calls consist of 3 strangers alongside a simulcast of Stranger Things or anything else on Netflix. The extension was developed by Mischief Internet Studios, which has produced a few internet curiosities like this over the years, including there was the Slack channel that offered $1,000 in prize money for the first person to correctly guess each word of the day. And by the way, it was shut down by Slack after just a week. A man who ate various foods as ice cream toppings, and who could forget, of course, about the Tabagachi, the lovable virtual avatar that slowly died as you open more and more tabs. Again, that was the Tabagachi. There we go. Netflix Hangouts is the latest in a long line of services that designed to let you slack off at work. And there you go. Note that The Verge accepts no liability for getting you fired for watching Netflix at work. And you shouldn't do it, but I thought that was pretty funny. Extensions that are not only productive, but unproductive or not productive. I like that. It's pretty funny. Okay, so we'll have a link to that in the show notes if you'd like to check that out. Again, it was Netflix Netflix Hangouts. Okay, and actually, hey, speaking of weird software, how about this one? Just another reminder that trust no one, especially if you're on the Android store. If you're on the Android store, that should be your mantra. Trust nothing. Believe no one. Because this app was just pulled, and turns out, wow, people were falling for it. Scam updates for Samsung. Well, the scam and the actual name of the app, Updates for Samsung app, pulled from the Google Play Store, saying that the app took advantage of how frustrating it is to wait for updates. So you can see an image of what it looked like here. Last week, a report from the CSIS security group pointed ZDNet to a very shady app on the Google Play Store called Updates for Samsung. It offered a provide system level Android updates to phones, and in fact, it did redistribute Samsung software, though it was essentially a scam to get you to pay money for said updates. Definitely a scam because those updates are free. Today, after we inquired, Google told The Verge that the app violated its policies and has been suspended. It was unclear what specific policy Google cited when it became aware of the app, probably the one that says don't be a scamming jerk. Sorry for the harsh language, but there you go. Last week, the developer of the app, Updato, told Bleeping Computer that it was pulling the app to remove the firmware service portion and non-Google payments, though it defended the app as a convenience to our audience. The app racked up more than 10 million downloads. 10 million. And of course, I know that a large chunk of those are probably going to be fake downloads to get it some traction, momentum. They're fuzzing, they're kind of fudging the numbers. But overall, 10 million is a huge number. And that doesn't necessarily mean that 10 million people were duped. The app's user rating were weirdly high for a scam, which, by the way, can be paid for and probably were. So it's possible that in addition to scamming money for users, it also was gaming the Google Play Store analytics. The app preyed on users' desire to get OS-level updates for Samsung Android phones, something that usually takes longer than users would like. And they said that the users can feel a bit lost when the system update procedure, hence they can make a mistake going to the official application store to look for a system update. Which makes sense, if you want an update for your phone, some people may go to the App Store for Samsung updates, and this might very well pop up. It is indeed a mistake, but not an unreasonable one. Even if that 10 million download number isn't anywhere near correct, it's still pretty bad that Google didn't seem to know about the scam until social media reported on it. So obviously, 9to5 Google noted last week that the updates for Samsung app did have a download firmware section, but it pushed users to pay a subscription fee by throttling those downloads, which again were likely being redistributed illegally and were unnecessary in the first place because Samsung distributes updates to its phones free of charge. Technically, it's not malware, but it is scamming. Again, you would be pushed to essentially pay an annual subscription of about $35 for a service that happens for free. Not good. Now it's gone, but sadly, many Android users may have been taken in by it. If nothing else, this should be a wake-up call for Samsung and Google Android and all this to kind of say that here's a pain point, here's something that people are obviously trying to remedy themselves. People are preying on their naivety. Fix it, do this better. So there you go. Okay, we're going to leave the show. We have time for one more story. We're going to go ahead and leave the show with this one. Elon Musk, our favorite tech eccentric billionaire. Elon Musk teases possible late July Starship presentation. That's right. And you can see an image here if you're watching the video portion. If not, think of the most futuristic, weird 50s rocket. And that's what he posted. So he said that he revealed a current target for a full presentation of Starship, which is the next generation reusable rocket and a key piece of the company's plan to reach Mars. And it could come as soon as late July. The SpaceX CEO also noted that the company's most recent test of one of its Raptor rocket engines was overall successful despite an abort, as the whole purpose was to test the outward limits of the new engine tolerances on fueling mixture ratios. There you go. They said that the Starship presentation should take place a few weeks after Hopper hovers, according to Musk, which refers to the test Star Hopper. Quick duration flights, which won't be fully launched, but will instead engage. Oh, there's the music. But will instead engage the engines to help prove their viability for eventual launch. Star Hopper completed a tether hop back in April, and essentially it's going to be essentially the next version of the Mars rover. So there you go. Late July, look for a new SpaceX announcement. Looking forward to it. Everyone, the music in the background means that we're done. Thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. I want to tell everyone we appreciate what you do. Again, a lot of shows are going up on the podcast later this afternoon. We'll get it done. We'll get it taken care of. And tune in tomorrow at 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, to get all of the latest computer technology news, guests, interviews, and so much more. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye, everyone.